Tabletop role-playing games are amazing. Sitting around, coming up with engaging stories with your friends, making awesome characters, painting minis to represent those characters, you cry, you laugh. It is my favorite hobby. If you clicked on this video, I'm sure you already know how amazing it can be. These games always hinge on the godlike guiding hand of the game master, or GM. They build the world, the quests, they play NPCs, they run all the combats, among many, many other responsibilities that they carry. But what if nobody wants to be the GM? Everyone wants to play. Could you play a tabletop role-playing game that doesn't require a GM? That's what today's video is all about. What does a GM-less tabletop RPG look like? How does it differ from a typical game? And most importantly, is it fun? If you stick around, I'll also give you some tips for playing GM-less games yourself, and I'll recommend a few systems that are worth trying. Part 1. No GM? Why? How? So I've been playing RPGs for close to a decade now, and I've GM'd many, many games. I've told countless stories, from emotional, multi-year long campaigns.
So final battle of the campaign, here's the Tarrasque.
Oh, wow.
And here's the inside of the Tarrasque.
Wow.
To epic TPKs.
Are we all down?
We all died!
Guys.
When you wake up, you're not where you were.
Oh,
You're not even on the same plane of existence.
holy crap.
But it's only recently that my brother Sean and I have gotten into GM-less games, and we've documented that on this channel.
I am Cliff Greybeard, dwarf. I think we could tell that much.
We have a GM-less actual play for both Ironsworn and Dragonbane, but I'll talk about both of those systems a little bit later. GM-less games have been around for quite a while now. They are only growing in popularity, but they were first really popularized with Fiasco, which was released in 2009. It's a fairly simple system, and still a great place to start for players new to GM-less games. It uses dice and some prompts to facilitate play. But how does Fiasco, or any other game for that matter, work without a GM? Well, when you have no GM, everyone is the GM. Instead of one person coming up with NPCs, lore, and battle maps, everyone works together to create that stuff on the spot. When someone rolls poorly, everyone works together to figure out what the consequence of that failed roll is. Now, I realize that might sound intimidating to some, but it's not nearly as scary as you might first expect it to be. Because when you're at a loss for an idea, you have everyone else around the table to lean on. And I'll give you some tips to help you in a minute as well. Besides, being a GM is really fun. In a GM-less game, you get to have the fun of GMing with none of the long prep time. That's one of the biggest pros for GM-less games. Nobody has to do any prep time. Just get into the game and immediately start having fun. The pressures of being a GM are spread out amongst the whole group, as opposed to just one person. One downside is GM-less games require a lot more trust with your group. And usually, at least a few of you need to have some GMing experience beforehand. But GM-less games can be so satisfying. For me, it scratches the itch of both playing and GMing. But I do find that after playing a session, I'm much more creatively exhausted than with GM-led games, because you have to come up with so much stuff on the spot. But it really is a blast to play without a GM, and I recommend it to any TTRPG player out there. Part 2. Tips. So I love GM-less games. Obviously, I'm making a whole video about it. But I also love GM-led games. One doesn't replace the other. They actually feel very different to one another. So here are some tips to help you get started with GM-less games. Number 1. Trust. Like I said earlier, you need to trust who you are playing with. Ideally, your group has played games together in the past and is quite comfortable together. Session 0 is also essential with GM-less games. They're important otherwise as well, of course, but even more so here. Make sure everyone is on the same page with what type of game you want to play. Some of these systems have a bunch of built-in questions for Session 0 that will help you a lot. And make sure you've got any safety tools in place before you start playing. If you've been playing together for a while, maybe you've got an idea already of what your group's lines are, but it's always good to check back in. Number 2. RPG etiquette. RPG etiquette is often something that goes unspoken, but it is good to discuss it openly as well, especially in GM-less games. This point kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, It's definitely something to discuss at your session 0. Do you want phones at the table? How about snacks or alcohol? How much table talk is acceptable? When I have big groups, it can sometimes get loud and off topic quickly. Maybe you're okay with that. Maybe you like more focus. Just make sure to discuss it so everyone is happy. If your RPG etiquette is on a different page as other players, it can cause annoyance and resentment. Honestly, there's a lot to discuss here. It could probably be a whole other video. Number 3, get creative. Like I mentioned earlier, when no one is the GM, everyone is. You'll be working together as a creative team with every other player at the table. It's like improv. So try to come up with fun and interesting ideas, pose difficult questions to other players, and try not to discount others' ideas. Instead, build off of them. Add, don't subtract. It's better to connect a new idea to an already existing established storyline than it is to create something completely new from scratch.
So Arok, we learn as we enter this chamber, is of a dragon bloodline. Yeah. And he has his 2 cultists at his side, one of which we recognize as the cultist that we escaped us from our last encounter.
Yeah, he's got a massive scar growing across his entire body. Also, if you're unsure about one of your ideas, or maybe it's a little more out there, ask the group. What do you think about trying this, or implementing an element about this?
Okay, this also might be a little too out there, and if you don't want to do it, it's okay, but just general testing the waters. Would you be interested in a time travel element?
Yes.
Okay.
Number 4, take breaks. These GM-less games are often more mentally taxing than regular GM-led games. So remember, you can always take a snack break or wrap the session up altogether if you need to. It's really fun to play the game, but it's not as fun when you're creatively exhausted. Number 5, go easy on yourselves. It's easy to fall into the trap of making everything have extremely dire outcomes when you don't have someone dedicated to guiding the group. And it can often be fun to have dastardly outcomes, but remember to go easy on yourself as well. Number 6, don't hesitate to bend the rules. This is your game. No one is going to judge you for how you play it. And if they do, then screw them. Always prioritize what makes the group have the most fun, even if that means completely breaking the game. You're playing. As long as you're having fun, who cares? So normally in this game, just so we can clarify, ranged attacks are edge and melee attacks are iron. But we're switching it up a little bit, so my rapier attacks will be edge and your blunderbuss attacks will be iron.
Yeah, that just works better for our characters.
Number 7, make your characters have a common goal. Conflict is really fun to have between characters, but at the end of the day, you're a group. So try to make things work out where your characters still have a reason to stay together. They don't necessarily have to be friends, but the game will go downhill pretty quickly if the group just immediately splits up. Number 8, make a list of goals for each session. This isn't always necessary, but it can sometimes help provide a little bit of structure to your session. Here's an example. Have a scene where you talk about your motivations, fight spiders, find an important NPC. Number 9, use random tables. If you're short on ideas or you want to inject a little bit of randomness into your game, use tables. And if you can't connect what you've rolled or you just don't like it, roll again or just pick an option on the table that you think is cool. Number 10, have fun. Of course, this is the most important one and the most obvious. Everything you do should be in service of having fun. So make sure you have open communication with whoever you're playing with, and don't forget you can always bend the rules to make things more enjoyable. You can do whatever you want as long as you're having fun. Part 3, games. Okay, so let's say you're planning on playing a GM-less game. What system do you pick? Well, there's a lot out there, and I'm going to discuss a few of them here. These are some really good starting options. Fiasco. Fiasco plays best with 3 or 4 players. When you start a game of Fiasco, you'll pick a playset. These can range pretty wildly. Anything from news reporters to zombie outbreak. In a single session, you'll create your characters by establishing bonds between them and play out the entire game. Your characters have high ambition and low impulse control, which usually results in many characters dying by the end. That's okay. Each playset is designed to fully play through in one sitting. And the game is bare bones simple. It's a collaborative story in its purest form. Its simplicity and easy rules make it a great place to start, as long as you can get together 3 or 4 players who really love roleplay and coming up with interesting ideas on the spot. Anyone can wear the mask. This is another very simple system. The entire rulebook PDF is only 15 pages. This game is best at 3 players, but it can also be played at 2. In it, 1 player controls a superhero, 1 player controls a supervillain, and 1 player controls the city. This one seems really cool, but I haven't played it yet. We do intend on getting this one on the channel at some point. This would also be a good place to start as long as everyone loves superheroes. GM Mythic Emulator. This is designed to be used as a supplement in any game, and it replaces the GM. It is primarily used for solo play, but it can also be used in co-op. This is great because it can be used with a system you're already familiar with. If you want to play 5e GMless, this would be the way to do it. I've not personally used it, but I hear from a lot of people that it's really good. I just prefer playing systems that are specifically designed with co-op in mind. Dragonbane. This one we actually played right here on the channel, so you can take a look at that actual play if you like.
I never had halfling before.
You probably wouldn't like me. I actually carry diseases, deadly diseases on me.
Well, guess what, little guy? I already got all the diseases.
Dragonbane is a rather simple but still tactical system, so you can use grid-based combat. It is measured in meters as opposed to feet, which messed me up after playing 5e for years and years. The system is mainly designed to be played with a GM, but there is also a really great solo/co-op module called Alone in Deepfall Breach, which you can play through. The module offers a little more structure than most other GM-less games do, so it can be a great place to start if you're a little nervous about getting into it. Plus, it maintains a very easy character creator and has pretty simple rules. The monsters are also designed in a very cool way, which makes them fun to fight even without a GM. You can hear more of our thoughts on Dragonbane in our discussion video, Ironsworn. And I've left my favorite for last. In recent years, Ironsworn has quickly become my favorite system, GM-less or not. So forgive me while I gush about it here for a minute. This is the game that actually kind of kicked off our journey into making RPG videos on this channel. We did 2 sessions, then we said, this is actually really fun, we should record this. And so we did. And now here we are.
Alright, give me a roll. Alright, Jeremiah and Ithella.
Ithella.
Yep. Hey, that's what happens when you roll on the fantasy name generator.
Jeremiah's such a normal name. Ithella.
This game is immaculately designed, whether you're playing GM-less co-op, solo, or even with a GM. It's very simple, and the actual creation of your character is as simple as filling in 5 stats and picking some cool abilities. There's also tons of interesting oracles that can give you inspiration during play. And if you don't care for fantasy, there's also Starforged, a space version of Ironsworn. It's even better. But Ironsworn is also completely free, so there's no reason not to check it out. For more of our thoughts on Ironsworn, you can check out our discussion video. We're currently working on our Starforged Sundered Isles actual play, so if you want to see that, you're gonna have to subscribe. So I guess it's pretty clear which system I like the most, but all of the ones I listed here are great, and there are many more that are definitely worth your time. But just pick whichever one you think sounds the coolest. So there you have it. Why you should play, some tips for playing, and some systems to check out. I hope all of this was enough to convince you to grab a friend or two and try out a GM-less RPG. Simply put, they are insanely fun. I think you'll find that they make you a better player and GM overall in other games. But GM-less games are also a great joy in their own right. So give it a shot. If you want to see my brother and I play a GM-less actual play, we've got a few here on the channel, like I've mentioned a bunch of times already in this video. They can be a great way to give you the vibe of what a game is actually like, and our Sundered Isle actual play will be out soon. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.